Welcome to episode 1 and the inaugural first ever Irish Mags show, brought to you by the Irish Mags NUFC supporters group. My name is Paul and I am your host today, along with my fellow talented co-hosts. We have Alan. Say hello, Alan.
How's it going? How are you, lads?
Thank you, Alan. And we also have Krisho. Say hello, Krisho.
Hello, Krisho. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Nice to see you, Paul. Nice to see you, Alan.
Hello to yourself. So, for those of you that don't know, the Irish Mags show is going to be a weekly production brought to you both in audio and video form. So if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and if you'd like to see our lovely faces, you can pop over to the Irish Mags YouTube channel to catch the video show. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Right, so we have an action-packed hour ahead of us this evening, lads. We'll be talking all things Irish Mags related, delving into what's been happening in the community this week. I believe it's been a little bit eventful from what I've come across in some WhatsApp groups. A little bit about what's ahead as well. We'll also talk about some of the latest Newcastle United news and talk about some of the recent results, which is a good one this week. And then kind of turn our focus onto some upcoming games and travel, because there's an even bigger game to come. But more on that shortly. Before we proceed, there's somebody else here. We have a very, very important special guest joining us today for episode 1. It's a man who many probably consider to be the face of the Irish Mags. He's often seen parading the streets of Europe with various former Newcastle United legends. And most importantly, it's the man, the myth and the legend behind the Irish Mags community. It is, of course, Tev. Say hello, Tev.
What's the story? How's everybody?
Good.
Fantastic to get this podcast up and running. But yeah, over the next few weeks, kind of months, it's going to be fantastic for the viewers of Irish Mags and also the Newcastle community to kind of hear the lads kind of speak about all things Newcastle. So yeah, how are you doing?
We'll be very well behaved, Tev. I mean, there's rumours that you're only here to kind of keep an eye on us for the first one.
That's it. That's what it is.
But we promise we're going to behave. Super. Great to have you here, Tev. And of course, Alan and Krisho. Right, lads. So, before we dive into the meat of today's episode, I think our listeners need to hear a little bit more about each of you, lads. So maybe not me, more about you, and this is more fun for me. So what we want to hear about is basically how each of you became a Newcastle fan, because, you know, I'm sure we've all had our own responses to that question growing up. What makes you tick when it comes to Newcastle, and most importantly, your journey into the Irish Mags community. So, we're going to start with Mr. Alan Williamson. Alan, talk to us. Tell us how a young, innocent, young fella from Dublin ends up as a lifelong Newcastle fan, because there's probably not that many of you.
We're few and far between, but basically I had absolutely no choice in the matter. I was born into a Newcastle jersey. My uncle's a Newcastle fan. He's also been in at a couple of our meetups. Joseph, if he's listening, how's it going? I had absolutely no choice in it, and it was the best decision that's ever been put on me, because I absolutely love being part of this. I joined the Irish Mags at our first meetup after we started it on Twitter. It was a couple of lads whinging on Twitter for a while, and we said, why don't we whinge together in person? And then all of a sudden, there's nearly 400 of us.
Yeah.
Just like that. I mean, as a Galway man, I'm not going to talk about, you know, lads from that side of the country being inclined to whinge about things. I think you know yourselves, right? And I don't want to make too many enemies. I'm also very, very, very outnumbered on this podcast. I've said it 3 times because it's 3 of you, and you're all bigger than me. So we'll move swiftly on over to Krisho. So, Krisho, time to focus on you. My first question is Krisho your real name? Because all I've ever heard you called is Krisho.
No, it isn't. It's a nickname from back in the early 90s, when we all thought we were Brazilian footballers growing up in Wicklow. So all 11 of my mates have an O after their name. So Trevaldo, Winaldo, Brianaldo, Krisho, Wezo. So we all kind of played football. Tevo. We all played football together. So that's pretty much where the Krisho name came from, and that's why I always mysteriously wear a hat as well, just in case I get noticed, because I'm actually quite famous, but we won't go into it just yet. We'll go into it in more in the other episodes. I asked my mum for a United jersey in 1993, and for Christmas, and she wasn't having the greatest time of her life, but she went down the street in Wicklow and got a Newcastle United jersey with a blue star on the front of it. And when I opened my present at Christmas, I just kind of held it in front of my face and went, "Oh no, I can't say anything bad. Oh God Almighty! Oh, this is great. I love it. I love it, Mum. I love it." And I started watching them, and everyone was slagging me in school, but they all supported Man United and Liverpool, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick with these guys. But luckily for me, they were very, very good in 93, 94. And from 94 onwards until, well, we won't go into the bad times just yet. So I became I became a Newcastle United supporter from being a Manchester United supporter. So I'm a real United supporter now. But like, just to show you, I have been a season ticket holder from 2008 to 2013. So there is legitimacy there. Don't go too hard on me.
Not in Old Trafford, obviously. You're talking about St James's Park. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about St James's Park. 100%.
I'm sure. I mean, fairness. I'm sure there's a lot of, especially that I'm probably we're not that a million miles away in terms of age, lads. But a lot of us, obviously, growing up in the 90s, it was Man United. My father, my mother, my brother, entire household, all United fans. And when I was about 7, I actually made the decision to just be the awkward one and went straight for Newcastle. This was the Peter Beardsley, Rob Lee day. So I'm fully with you there. Tev has a different journey, I believe, because I suppose it's fair to say, Tev, you are literally the true definition of an Irish Geordie. Can you explain what that might mean to our listeners?
Yeah, so obviously back in the 90s, so obviously my mum and obviously my mum's sister, my auntie are like good best friends. So when my auntie moved over to Newcastle, she married a Geordie, and that was it. So every Christmas, every summer holiday, any excuse, to jump on the Ryanair, went to Newcastle, forced to go to games, got the jerseys, etc. And I just fell in love. It was, Geordies are a bit like the Irish. And especially when you go to Newcastle, you just feel at home. So I think the decision was made. So over the years, been going to games, and I was there for the dark times. I still have a jersey with Overton at the back. That's another story to tell.
You love that jersey.
Stop. I just love like nostalgic kind of Dal Murphy Overton jerseys. But just in terms of these games, stuff like that, just following the club, seeing the rise, seeing some shit managers, seeing some good managers, shit players, good players. But Newcastle's at the heart of everything, what I do, what I think. So that's why it was great to kind of get the community together and get the lads all on board, because it's just one love. It's just Newcastle,
If someone was to say to me, you mentioned the word Newcastle nostalgia, and then if you were to ask me about like who was the first player, or, the most memorable player I had in the back of a kit, I probably would have said Ginola or Asprilla. Alan, who would you have said?
It would have been Shearer. It's always Shearer.
Krisho?
Ginola.
And Tev went with Oberton.
That's real commitment. That's real commitment to the cause.
There's surprises to be unveiled on this podcast, folks, at the very least. So we've learned something. The next time you meet Tev, make sure to mention Oberton in the Bleakers or in St James's.
Oberton probably got an email when somebody bought his jersey, and he got told that somebody's bought your jersey. He was probably delighted.
He probably got commission.
I was going to say it's quite likely that at that exact time and that exact squad we had, Oberton must have been the least amount of letters in his surname that Tev didn't have to spend as much money on letters from the back of the
with me pocket money.
Right. On that bombshell, we'll move swiftly on. Thanks for that, Tev. That's probably a really good segue as well, Tev, because you started talking about the community. And I think that's where we'd really like to start with episode 1, right? Obviously, the Irish Mags, while of course we all have something big in common, which is Newcastle United, and we could talk about Newcastle all day, which we will get to shortly. I think we might turn our focus a little bit onto the Irish Mags itself. Like, even for me, I'm probably only really within the Irish Mags community in the last year, maybe even less. I know you lads are a lot more. So I suppose, Tev, seeing as you're here and not just keeping an eye on us, could you maybe tell us a little bit, like, how did the Irish Mags come about? When and where did it all start? Like, how do our members kind of communicate? The channels we use. How many members do we have now? Because I think people might be surprised. And how does one join the Irish Mags community?
I think when you think about it and you think, well, what is an Irish Mag? So because we have a lot of things that we do in terms of travelling to games, going to the Bleakers, going to different bars. If you are a Newcastle fan in Ireland, you are an Irish Mag. You don't need to go to the Bleakers to be an Irish Mag. Irish Mags can be from all four corners of Ireland. Could be from Cork. You could be watching games in Galway. You could be with your family in Limerick. You could be at the Bleakers. The Irish Mags is a community that encompasses all of Ireland, and that's what we're trying to do. Before, when we used to go to games in terms of the airport in Newcastle, nobody used to talk to each other. Everybody was very silent, but everybody would know there'd be Newcastle fans around. So it was about getting the community together. So myself and Jamie are co-founders, but we also have an awesome committee. Obviously, you guys are part of the committee as well. But it's so fascinating to see it grow, and you know how many people want to see it grow. Like, it's not only in Ireland where people kind of talk about the Irish Mags. I was at Dortmund away in the games in Newcastle. Everybody knows us, you know, and it's fantastic to get that recognition. To kind of, you can see what we're wearing the tops, but at the end of the day, at the heart of what we do, it's about the community. So we were set about a year or two ago where myself and Jamie kind of came together and said, look, like we're running social media channels, we're running communities. Let's join together and get everybody in one place. So as we did, there was about 60 or 70 people. Now there's nearly 400 people. We're going past 400. You know, we're doing stuff like podcasts. We have our own kind of regional bars all across the country. Obviously, the most notable one is Bleecker Street Bar, run by Johnny Leahy. But you can see that we're creating little hubs and little communities, and obviously the big community is our WhatsApp community where we have over, you know, nearly 400 members. But it's just about getting people together and making people feel at home when they're watching a game. They're not just with Manchester United or Liverpool fans, or they're not watching the game alone, you know, so there's somewhere to go to. We've had lads come from, you know, like Paul, you've come to the Bleakers. We've had lads from Cork come to the Bleakers. We went over to the likes of Galway and Cork. I was over in Galway a few months ago in terms of one of the games, the Brighton game. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do and what we're trying to go towards is just community. So we're on social media. Our main channels are on Twitter. Alan manages the Facebook channel as well. We have a big WhatsApp community, but if you want to get involved, please get in touch with one of us and we'll happily add you in, because it's not about us, it's not about individuals, it's about the whole Irish fan group. So the more the merrier, as I say, you know.
Yeah.
I think you touched on a really good point as well, Tev. Like, it strikes a chord with me because, you know, I've been going to Newcastle games for years. I've been with current and ex-girlfriends. I've been with my brother. Been with mates, but like I've also travelled on my own. And I remember travelling on my own and like rocking into Dublin Airport, wearing the Newcastle kit that I know I'm going to be wearing for the next probably 36 hours straight, because I'm just going to go out, you know, sleep in the jersey, get up and go home. But like that, I've been in the bar in Dublin Airport, even in Shannon. I've seen Newcastle jerseys, and you know, I've made eye contact in the past, and like someone might just kind of go, you know, I know where you're going and all that, but you know, in my mind, I'm like, I should be going over having a pint because we have the most easiest thing to speak about in common, but it just didn't seem to be as natural. Yeah. And that's probably a mix of like, I don't know, not being as open about talking about Newcastle when, you know, we've got a lot of grief in the past as fans, and also, you know, as you said, everybody we went to school with or everyone we kind of grew up with was probably Liverpool or United back in the day, or even Arsenal. So I think it's great now that, you know, there's a lot more hype and buzz around the club, but I think the Irish Mags is playing a big part. They're rocking into the airport now. And you know, we kind of pointed to it there, like, but we're all rocking the Irish Mags gear. Yeah. Like, there's no way anyone's going to go through Dublin Airport the morning of a game or the day before and probably not see an Irish Mags kind of top. So that's pretty cool, as well as in the pubs and at the meetups.
I mean, it used to be like a dirty little secret, if you excuse the expression, but it's not anymore. Now it's just an open secret, and you go up to the airport. It's fantastic to walk in to the bar that's closest to usually where we get the Ryanair flight, and everyone has the gear on. And everyone knows each other by name, and it's so lovely to go into a pub with, you know, 30, 40 people and know at least 39 or 38 of them and go, oh, how are you? And new people go, hang on, what are those guys? And they come over, like the Australian people we met. Remember going over to Crystal Palace?
Absolutely.
They just joined in. They went, are you guys all like a supporters group? And they joined in. I thought it was really lovely. Like, that's what we want. That's what we're aiming for.
And long may it continue, lads. Fair play. No, it's great. And as Tev has alluded to, anyone listening to this, if you're interested in getting on board with the Irish Mags, even, you know, whether you want to get in a WhatsApp group or not, or just kind of keep in touch in terms of travel, events, get in touch at Irish Mags on Twitter is probably the first place to go, and we'll have more details in the description. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right, lads, the day we speak now today, on the day of recording, peek behind the curtain, it's Monday, the 27th of November. Just 2 days ago, lads, something rather wonderful happened. And I don't know if we'll be able to talk any further without talking about it. I've probably watched the highlights and the goals probably about 11 times since Saturday, and I watched the game live. But we're, of course, talking about Newcastle United 4, Chelsea 1. And that felt good. And I'm allowed to swear because I'm the host. Lads, I don't know. I mean, going to get your opinions in a minute, but like as far as I could see, lads, we've absolutely battered them. You know, we've had 4 goalkeepers on the bench in the 4 goalkeepers in the match day squad, 3 of them on the bench, obviously. 6 players under the age of 20. You know, 3 players coming on making their debuts. Chelsea had Caicedo on the bench. You know what I mean? Like Chelsea had Mudryk on the bench. That's 160 million right there. And we had Matt Ritchie and Paul Dummett. So I think we need to talk about this and celebrate a little bit, because I know a lot of our listeners will be doing the same. Where will we start is the question. Alan, I'm going to come to you. So I think we should start by just probably talking a little bit about that Newcastle lineup. And I'd love to hear, particularly Alan, what went through your head when you opened up? I don't know if you were you at the game, actually. You could probably start with that. But when you saw the lineup,
I was in the Bleaker at our meet-up. But when that team got announced at 2 o'clock on Saturday, I'm not going to lie, I did go, oh God, what is after being announced? Look, the starting 11, not bad at all. Look, strong enough. That bench put the fear of God in me. Put the fear of God in me. When you've 3 goalkeepers, 4 kids, and Richie and Dummett on the bench, you're kind of going, oh, we have absolutely no options. Now, fast forward to 5:15 on Saturday afternoon, I'm going, what the hell was I talking about? These kids are all world class. We're going to win the league. No, but honestly, it did. When I seen it, didn't really think it was going to turn out the way it turned out, but Eddie Howe has that team willing to run through brick walls for him, so I'm really not surprised. I'm more surprised at myself for not seeing this coming than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, I exact same for me. And I think the one moment where I kind of was like, I've underestimated this, was probably the goal, right? It's as much as it is the goal, it's the Lewis Miley pass. So like, I mean, Alan, you know, again, you've probably watched that back a few times as well. Thoughts on that?
It started off with just some cracking wing play between Mickey and Trips down the wing. Ball was whipped across, fell to Gordon. Gordon worked it back inside, fired the ball into Joe Linton, who I'll say he meant to pass it to Miley, but let's be honest, it was a miscontrol that fell to Miley's feet. Anybody who is 17 years of age takes a touch and absolutely cracks a shot in their home debut for their local club. He didn't. He took a touch, saw Isaac in an absolutely amazing position. Weight of the pass was outstanding. He's a 17-year-old kid, and he was playing like he was 30 years old. He was head and shoulders above Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez in that midfield. That pass and just that goal, it just settled the game for us, I think. Don't get me wrong, Isaac's touch opened his body, found the back of the net, absolutely smashing, but Miley's pass made that goal. It was cracking.
Crisho's definitely not in agreement. Crisho, I think
I love it.
Like, as much as we were kind of a little bit, you know, probably people were a bit surprised, and you're like, geez, that's quite impressive for a 17-year-old. Isaac was probably as surprised. But what I liked is that Isaac, when he was celebrating, kind of flipped around running backwards, and he actually was like pointing at Miley. He was like, you know, he even recognised it.
Yeah,
you know?
And when Almiron went to kind of hug him and the crowd were cheering, Almiron was pointing at him as well, so they all kind of came around him. Because, I mean, it is an incredibly impressive feat as a 17-year-old to go into your first Premier League start and play a pass, like Alan said, like a seasoned pro, and get it right. I mean, it's alright if he tried it and it didn't go right, people would still be impressed, but he got it right against Chelsea. And like I said, and like Alan said, he looked really, really, really good. I'm really chuffed about this. We have another youngster coming through that is going to be with us for the next decade, that's going to play in our midfield. And he's tall, he's strong. He has a good head about him. He's always looking about himself like Steven Gerrard used to, and he knows where he is on the pitch. It's very impressive, very, very impressive.
Yeah, I liked what Eddie Howe actually said it when he was asked about it. I think one of the questions was like, you know, has Miley been in around the first team for long? And Eddie Howe basically was like, yeah, we made that decision in the summer. He's not been near the under 21s, whatever. He's been training with the first team even since. And I think it kind of alludes to, you know, they definitely looked at it and went, right, we're going to bring in Tonali. They probably could have done with an extra midfielder, but they were looking at it going, this guy's probably ready to do a job when needed. Obviously, being called on a bit sooner than we'd like. But yeah, the future's bright for the lads, so fair play to them. Can't wait.
Well, if you think about it, right, and I think if we look at Chelsea as well, right, we're going to talk about Newcastle. We've also got to talk about the opposition, but Eddie Howe had 7 players the last 2 weeks to train, and Miley was one of them. but he didn't have the people he started with around him. They were all on international duty. But I think they really must have worked very hard with Miley for the 2 weeks, solid, on what his role was going to be in the Chelsea game. And the great thing about it is, and they must be so proud, is that he did it from zero to the moment he came off, late in the second half. He played the role exactly as he should, which I think is the most impressive thing about it. Never mind the assist, the fact that he followed all the instructions, he kept a level head, he didn't get booked, he didn't get involved in any nonsense, as a young lad might well do in his first start. And we made Chelsea megastars look incredibly mediocre. So we have I think the best thing I would say, we have a team of characters. They have a team of footballers that, maybe would be good one week or maybe not be good the next week. That's why the Bournemouth thing was such a surprise for me, because it looked like some of the spirit had gone with us or something was wrong. But against Chelsea, I think Eddie Howe has this kind of hypnotic thing over them. He just says a couple of words and they just go out, like Alan said, and they'll go through brick walls for him. Absolutely brick walls. That was fantastic on Saturday. And I called it, by the way, just to throw an extra story in here. In the Bleecker Street bar. I did. I stood up and said, this is going to be 4-1. And it was 4-1. So, I'll make that. I'll do the predictions every week, Paul, for you.
I was going to make a joke saying maybe you were looking at Man United against Everton the following day, but we'll let that one slide again. We'll move on. I do want to talk about some of the other goals. Obviously, again, we could talk about it all day, but Tev, just one thing on the Chelsea goal I want to ask you, because this is going around a little bit. It was going around in the Irish Mags WhatsApp group. It's obviously going around on social media. Look, there was a free kick after not, Sterling does what Sterling does. Apart from scoring that free kick, we weren't expecting that, but my main question is, should Nick Pope be doing a bit better in terms of at least moving or attempting or getting to it at all? Or is it just, it is what it is?
I think the dip of it takes him out so surprise. I think, could he have in terms of tried to save it? Yeah, but take no credit from the free kick. The free kick was a lovely free kick. Sometimes you have to kind of just clap, or not even clap, just kind of say it was a good goal. But we made it back. Don't worry, we scored 4. We're not going to be invincible. We are going to concede goals. It's just about the reaction, and you can see the reaction. We scored 2 goals in about a minute. So these things happen. Couldn't Nick Pope kind of tried? Yes, he could have. But look at the end result. I wouldn't be dwabbling about kind of that free kick. It was a good goal.
Yeah, that's fair.
Can I just jump in on that? Yes. Yeah. So Shay Given said something after the match. And it wasn't even something that Shay Given said. Shay Given said that Bobby Robson said to him a long, long time ago, "You're not going to bloody save it with your eyes. Throw yourself at it." And it's something that I've always had in my head. Listen, I've played in goal a few times. Even if you're not getting to it, throw yourself. You never know what's going to happen. A little bit disappointed he didn't even make a move for it. He kind of had his feet planted. I originally thought he was thinking Sterling was going to go far side of the goal, through the wall with power. And he guessed and got it wrong, but come here, it's not the end of the world. We still got the result out of it.
I mean, it's sorry, Paul. It's a disappointment, because that would have been the record, right, of 5 home games without conceding a goal. And if you look at the replays, the match cam that they do on Newcastle United YouTube from behind the goal, it looks to me like he was caught in the hop. As in, maybe he didn't hear the whistle or something, but he didn't even move. It just went straight in the goal. He kind of went, oh. It's like he didn't hear the referee blow his whistle or something, or that's the only thing I can suggest, that he didn't even attempt to make a dive for it.
Yeah, like the only thing that comes into my mind is when you're setting up your wall, and we've got big fellas there, right? Like obviously Lascelles is in there, right? Maybe Joe Linton was in there. I can't even remember who exactly was in the wall, but like he puts them kind of there, expecting them to cover that side of the goal so that he can have one on the other side. So I just don't think he's expecting it to get up over the wall and down again, and I think he probably even thought it was going over. But look, like Alan said, yeah, could he have thrown it? What did he say, Alan? Like, don't just use your eyes, throw yourself at it. Yeah. I have it on good authority. That's how you've managed your love life all your life as well. But that's a topic for another podcast.
Irish Mags After Hours.
After hours. That's a topic for another podcast. Right, really quickly then, Alan, talk to me about your emotions inside in the Bleakers. I hope you weren't like in the toilet or at the bar when, as Tev has alluded to, within 90 seconds, we've not only scored one lovely goal by Jamal Lascelles and a great cross by Gordon, but a second one literally a minute later.
Come here, looking at the game, you're just looking at Chelsea. You're thinking they're going to come out all guns blazing in that second half. They didn't. We came out like a house on fire. We were all over them from the get-go, bar the first 2 minutes when Lascelles gave away a free kick. But it's the 60th minute, we got a free kick. We worked it from right to left. Gordon's ball in for Lascelles' goal was outstanding. He put it on a plate for him. The ball landed 8 yards out. He nodded that ball in. Sanchez didn't have a hope. He couldn't come for it. It was in that corridor of uncertainty, as they say. Defenders hate it. Goalkeepers hate it. Attacking players absolutely love it, because any touch, that ball's gone in the back of the net. So that puts us 2-1 up. You're thinking Chelsea are just going to have to settle themselves down, don't do anything stupid, and they go and do something stupid. Now, the pressing from Livramento and Joe Linton was outstanding. The ball worked its way back to Silva. Silva went to play a pass either to Badiashile or to Sanchez. He passed it 2 yards and went to Joe Linton. Joe Linton hammered that ball into the back of the net from 8 yards out. It was an absolutely outstanding finish, and you could just see the relief from him, because we'll less mentioned about that header he missed in the first half, the better, but he made up for it in the second half.
Absolutely. Tev.
Can we actually talk about Thiago Silva having a stinker, an absolute stinker twice? Not only did he try to pass ball back and it went 2 centimetres beside his foot, he tried to do Samba Sock at the corner at the corner, and he was left on his derriere. I don't know, some of these players think they can come to St. James's and play their game.
That's it. It's the pressure, right? And it's not just for me. It's not just the pressure that puts you off. It's almost like, if there's even a slight chance that you're going to mess it up, we're going to be there to clean up and take advantage. You know what I mean? That's also a big part of it. Even if 99 times out of 100, they're going to clear it, right? There's always that chance. It reminds me kind of in the PSG game when Marquinhos, another Brazilian defender, when he's in the box and he's tried to kind of play a clever ball out, and Bruno just kind of heads it down into the path of Isak, and he takes the shot before Miggy gets the rebound. So I just think defenders are just it's gonna be in their minds like, I can't make a mess of this, more so than ever against Newcastle.
There's a stat from last year that did we have 14 draws or 11 draws, one or the other, right? But I think it's 11 or 14. We'll get there. But if we had just won 6 of those in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks of the Premier League, we would have been with Man City and Arsenal in the top 3, going for the Premier League. And I don't mind losing to Bournemouth 2-0 if we beat Man City, Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea, 4-1, 2-0.
Doesn't ask for much.
I mean, I'm saying that. I think that we were kind of all right for draws and then holding on a little bit last year. Now it's just we're going for teams. I mean, we're just going for them. Okay, we conceded. I was kind of thinking last year that might have been a 1-1 game or a scrappy 2-1, but we didn't. Like Alan said, as soon as from the second half, we were right on top of them. They couldn't even breathe. They couldn't do anything. They were trying to do their passing around, but they were getting nowhere. And I wouldn't want to have someone like Joe Linton or Gordon or Isak coming at you that fast. You wouldn't have time to think at all.
I can tell you, I wouldn't even want Paul Dummett coming at me that fast. But that's more about me than anyone. Speaking of fast, lads, we need to talk about the 4th goal, because we need to talk about a man named Anthony Gordon. And
brilliant.
From my own two cents, if I met Gareth Southgate in the pub, we'd be having some serious discussions about what his mindset is with Anthony Gordon. As it stands currently, his numbers are there. He passes all the eye tests. But Tev, I'll come to you. That goal, do you know what I mean? Now, again, what the Chelsea defence is doing is beyond me. But I think you can't take that away from Gordon in terms of I think he knows exactly what he's doing from a long time before he takes that shot.
But even the pass, Miggy's pass was outstanding, and the run to go from in to out by Gordon was absolutely fantastic into the channel. But he took it like a pro. He took it like, this is what I do. Cut inside, whack it in. Now, the position of the keeper was a bit suspect, but we'll take it,
Yeah.
But I don't know how he's not getting a call up for the England squad. But it's I don't know. Other than Trippier and Pope, well, not Pope not anymore, but Southgate just doesn't like Newcastle players, I don't think. There's a few of them there are tapping on the shoulder. Now, obviously, a few of them are injured now, but when Wheelock was in the height of what he was doing, no call up. Longstaff, no call up. Trippier, It's only because he's been there, do you know. And Southgate doesn't kick players out. Cough Maguire, So look at Gordon now and look where he was. Like, Everton fans were kind of saying we got our pants pulled down. Now they're probably looking to get him back, and 10 points back from that ban.
He would have earned. I mean, I tell you now, they've lost more points than 10 by losing Anthony Gordon. Is how I would describe it.
Absolutely.
Stop. But I think it's fantastic for the club, and it's fantastic that we have players like Gordon stepping up, because right now we have about 14 players injured. We need the likes of Almiron, Gordon, Isak, Bruno stepping up in big moments, because we don't have the bench to take off Gordon and put on Barnes, which I think that was the plan. We don't, so it's fantastic Gordon stepping up.
Fair point. Alan, something to add?
That goal was just the epitome of Newcastle United this season. Didn't let them anywhere near the ball. Miggy took the ball down. That pass with the outside of his foot was just outstanding. Chelsea had a line basically on the halfway line with Thiago Silva and Badiashile against Anthony Gordon in a foot race. Fair enough, lads. Whatever you're into, that's never going to work. He roasted them. I thought his finish was so clever. He got inside of them, used Badiashile as a cover, and just bent the ball into the back of the net. It was an outstanding finish. But everything that I've seen from Gordon so far this year is just, that's par for the course of him now, I think. So that's just how good he is.
Krisho, in agreement?
Absolutely, 100%. As we always are, gentlemen. The Irish Mags are always in agreement. But I just wanted to just say one thing, just very clearly. The man of the match was Miggy Almiron. I'm going to just come out, for me, the way he played differently. He didn't do the usual tippy-tappy with Trippier doing the overlap. He turned his runs inside. He came across midfield. He looked more across midfield. His passing was excellent. Everybody looked a little bit tired around 84, 85, 86 minutes. Miggy didn't. Miggy was headless chicken, running everywhere, chasing everyone down. So, of all the times that I've seen Miggy play, this was top-notch man-of-the-match performance by Miggy.
It's great. I mean, like, it's just great to see how well he has been playing, obviously under Eddie Howe's tutelage, but just the confidence, Yeah. I mean, like, Miggy's, he's at the point where he's gone out there and he's probably looked at it and going, right, Caicedo's not on this pitch. Enzo Fernandez isn't really going to be sitting in front of the defence. So he starts kind of wandering inside, kind of almost behind Isak, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, like I can't say enough. The one thing I want to add about Gordon as well, the last thing on Anthony Gordon, just before he gets the ball from Miggy, I think he was offside, and what he does is he steps in, he actually runs inside his man, so on the Newcastle side of the defence, I think it was Badiashile, so actually runs inside him to go through him again, do you know what I mean? So he actually steps in and around to make sure he's onside. Like, the intelligence Anthony Gordon has shown, it was the same when he did that screen a couple of games ago. Like, he ran in towards, I think it was Maguire, wasn't it? And he just kind of, it was like a basketball. I used to play basketball in school, but that's what you do in basketball. As you just run and stand, you're like, it's not my fault, that I'm in the way. I'm just standing here, and that actually just blocks the intelligence he's shown. But as you said, we could talk about Anthony Gordon all day. Maybe a topic for a future podcast as well.
Can I just add one more thing on this match? Reece James is not a captain of any Premier League football club. His first yellow card was for kicking a ball away for the most petulant little foul by Conor Gallagher. It was ridiculous. He knew he was beaten by Gordon and still pulled him down. When you're on a yellow card, you do not do that. The whole argument of who's the best right back in the league, Trippier, Walker, Reece James isn't in that conversation anymore because he doesn't have the head for it. He gets sent off constantly nearly. Trent Alexander is a better defender than him. And I'm saying that now because Trent doesn't get sent off twice, 3 times a season. It was just so needless, and it was the final nail in the coffin at the end of the day. Like, Chelsea weren't getting back into it, but that thoroughly killed them off.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It doesn't matter. Trent, Reece James, irrelevant. Kieran Trippier, Tino Livramento, better than both.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's it.
Last thing on that game that I think is important for us to talk about as the Irish Mags. We alluded to the bench lads and the academy players that were sitting on the bench, but one of those academy players, and it gives me great pleasure to say this because I'm from Galway, was Alex Murphy. Alex Murphy, who moved to Newcastle from Galway United and had a cracking season in the first team at Galway United. Made his Premier League debut. We did see him in the Sella Cup. I believe he played 90 against Fiorentina.
Yeah, he did well.
He was fantastic.
He was brilliant.
So he came on quite late, but towards the very end, it was almost like nearly the last kick of the game, he actually made quite a good interception where, I mean, granted the clock was going down, but he didn't really look out of place considering the players he was playing against. You know, he's a young lad, you know, low fee, very little expectations, but I'm looking at him and I'm going, right, he was a centre half when I would have seen him play for Galway United. They're obviously looking at him going, you know, maybe he's not ready for centre half because obviously the physical nature of the position, and look at the size of the lads that do play there. But even at left back, more than capable of doing the job. And I'm delighted this fella's hanging around with the likes of Sven Botman and Dan Byrne in training, because, you know, what else would you want? But any thoughts on Alex Murphy, lads?
He is going to be outstanding. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him partnering Sven Botman in, say, 5-10 years when we're winning the Champions League. Come here, it's going to be great.
Just like that.
And Sam Curtis playing right back, coming over from St. Pat's, and Everett Ferguson as another Irishman playing number 9 up front.
It's a bit of an Irish theme here. I mean,
Irish Newcastle team.
There is a bit of an Irish theme. Yeah, Irish Mags. They're taking Irish Mags to the next level, quite literally. But even we have Carl Heffernan in there as well. Carl Heffernan, the young centre half playing for the 19s and 21s.
From AC Milan, right?
Yeah, just like that. Yeah. So yeah, the future is bright for the Irish, but also the Irish Mags. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Right, chaps. Let's move on from that game. I know I'd love to talk about that game all day, but we can't. We need to move on. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about just a bit of news around the club, kind of in the last week or so. Particularly probably news pertaining to like development related stuff around the club that we've heard. I guess, you know, by the time this podcast comes out, there'll probably be about a month left until the January transfer window. And I know every Newcastle fan is thinking about that. So maybe we'll just talk about some of the things that are going around in terms of the club. Chrisio, I might go to you first.
Yeah.
A topic that I think that you're very passionate about. I think you've got strong opinions about.
I do.
And are very happy to share, which would be relating to the Premier League vote on a temporary ban, which makes it even more weird. They were voting on a temporary ban on clubs loaning players from affiliate clubs. A lot of us probably believe that's just a smokescreen to try and block Newcastle from having the option of signing from the PIF Saudi-owned clubs. But I guess that just highlights probably how threatened some of these clubs are. But I suppose, what are your thoughts on that? What have you read about it? What have you picked up on that would be important for our listeners to know?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it amazes me that the media's fascination is with that this is all about Newcastle United. If that was the case, it would have been 19-1 vote. It wasn't. It was 12-7, wasn't it? 12-7 vote or 12-2.
I think it was I think it was 13-7 for that one and 12-8 for the commercial one. Yeah.
Right. So frankly, it's all a bit petty, to be honest with you. It's like as if all the owners kind of got around and let's do this, let's do that. But Amanda Staveley went to the meeting, it seems, and made quite an impassioned speech. She already had Nottingham Forest on side, the Burnley owner on side. She already had Man City on side, Chelsea on side. So she had 5. She just needed 2 more, which she managed to get. Now, I don't really know what would have went on there, but look, I'm going to be frank with you. I was very surprised that it was a no vote. I actually thought that they were going to put the temporary ban on, and that, you know, it would have been, because I can kind of, like, even though we support Newcastle, I can understand what other clubs are thinking, that we have just an open market now to ourselves to pick, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo or whomever, which, I mean, I guess we kind of do, but that's not, I mean, do they realise what manager we have, what structure we're trying to go for? Why would we just, you know, even if we had injuries, we just beat Chelsea 4-1 with all our injuries. Why would we go and have to go and take Cristiano Ronaldo or whoever else? But I don't like, and I think it's another example, like I said, it's another example of how the media, Sky Sports and other medias that I won't mention here, really go for Newcastle, but for the jugular every morning. It's all about Newcastle. Newcastle shouldn't have this. They have too much of that. They've links to this. They're doing that wrong. I mean, God help us if we do anything slightly wrong, because they'll be honest like a hot snot, and it'll be all over every newspaper and everywhere. We've got Newcastle. Now we've got them. So it does embolden the team, how we play, the supporter base. It is like Newcastle versus everybody. But in terms of the ban, money talks, gentlemen. Yeah, money talks. And the Premier League want to keep good links, just like the UK government do. Saudi Arabia are investing in the north of England, whereas the UK government are not investing in the north of England. So how are we going to invest in the north of England? I know, we'll ask Saudi Arabia to do it because nobody else will. So it's not just going to be Newcastle, it's going to be the whole area of the north that's going to be improved over the next 10 to 20 years. So any kind of little petty thing like this is just not going to go through. One thing I will say just to end this is that I do believe like it was a tepid attempt by Liverpool and co, because they are frankly pathetic. Their ownership, their manager, in fact the whole club setup, frankly, they're just whinging away in the background here because Newcastle are going to be 10 times better than them in 5 years time. But I'm fully expecting, and I mean this, gents, in the new year, early in the new year, they're going to push through another vote, which is basically going to be a limit on how many players can be loaned and for how long. Now, whether they do that before Christmas or after the January transfer window, but whatever happens this January in terms of loans will never happen again because the Premier League and other clubs will make sure of it. So that's my 2 cents on that, gents.
Very good points indeed. Yeah, I think like, I mean, I'm going to open the floor there in a second, lads. But the other thing for me, the 2 things that stood out for me, one, there was no way this was going to happen in the middle of a season. I just don't think you can make these drastic changes just in the middle. I think it's a summer thing, right? And the second thing is, I don't know. I mean, I know there's PIF and I know there's interest here, there, and everywhere. But like, they're trying to make this league, this Saudi league, into its own thing, its own, growing development league that's, getting this huge audience. Whatever about this side of the world, on that side of the world, they're not going to spend a fortune to bring all these players over just to send them back. Do you know what I mean? Now we could be proven wrong. If we see Sadio Mane playing in a Newcastle top or whatever, I'd be surprised. But it'll take something like that probably to trigger that urgent action. Tev, Al, anything to add before we move on?
Yeah, I do. I honestly think that this was one of Dan Ashworth's masterstrokes. I can't see us actually being interested in anyone that's in the Saudi league. Don't get me wrong. There are some fantastic players in it, but the players that have went to Saudi Arabia have gone to Saudi Arabia for one reason and one reason only, and that is their wage packet. They are not the types of players that we have been signing. They are not the types of players we will sign, and Eddie Howe has his no dickhead test, and I don't think any of them over there will pass it, to be honest with you. So that's my 2 cents.
Look at the players that we're buying and then look at the players that they think they're going to buy in Saudi. There's no correlation at all. So just because they're available, like, sure, we could go to Chinese league, they're available as well. There's a lot of seasons that have ended, Doesn't mean we're going to go and get players from every single league. We have money, but we spend it wisely, There was a reason why we got Livramento and Hall, where we could have got your man from Inter Milan, that left back, etc. Your one that went to Bayer Leverkusen as well. There's loads of players we could have got, but we stick to the system and we stick to what we know. So we're not going to drastically just change it because it's available, We sold Maxi for 20 million. We could have went to AC Milan and got 40 or 50. We're playing by the rules. But people think we're going to break them,
As long as... sorry, Krisha, go ahead.
No, I was just saying like that in terms of, like the lads were saying about the players that are out there. Like there's Laporte, there's Gabi Vega, who both they play for Al Ahly and Al Nassr, and then there's Saint-Maximin. I mean, Laporte could come in and help in the centre half positions, possibly if Botman his injury tends to go on a bit more, but I believe he's going to be back before Christmas. Gabi Vega, I don't know what age he is. Is he very young? Is he 20?
He's 20.
Yeah, he's like 22, 21 even. Yeah.
And he's very talented. Like, but I'm not really sure where he'd fit in. But I can't see. There is, like you said, Alan, many players out there that are very good. But I really had a look through the whole list. I was checking it today, and I thought, well, the only person I'd take back is Saint-Maximin, just from my heart, to see him play for Newcastle again. Just to help us out for the 6 months until the summer. But I don't see anybody else that Eddie Howe would, like you say, Alan, would pass that test. That would come and join Newcastle at all.
No love for Mitrovic. Moving on.
Well, maybe Mitrovic, but he's a bit of a hothead. He'd be sent off. He'd be sent off within the first 3 games.
And as Alan said, there is what did he call it? A no dickhead test. Alan managed to pass that to get in here, but anyway.
Just about.
We'll carry on. Tev. Actually, no, Alan, I'll come to you because Tev was the one who mentioned the left back from Inter Milan. I believe he was referring to Federico Di Marco, who even up until last week I've seen is rumoured to still be on the radar. Even though, we do have a couple of left backs floating around, obviously injuries, but there's a lot of rumours going around. We've touched on the Saudi thing, Ruben Neves and so on, but the Calvin Phillips rumours aren't going away. Emil Smith-Rowe is still floating around out there. Kvaratskhelia, or Kvaradonna as we like to call him, is still being touted around, which I just find incredibly hard to believe. The striker Hugo Ekitike is also been thrown around again after being linked with them last summer. We can't get through them all, but I guess my question for you, Al, would be like, going into January, let's say we can do 2 signings, for example. Like, where do we need to strengthen most, and who's really realistic in your mind?
Realistic in our mind, I think we're going to get Calvin Phillips on a 6-month loan with no obligation. He is not staying with us. He is going back after 6 months because he is not becoming a mainstay of our midfield. And the lads will all tell you why. I am convinced he only has 2 or 3 years left in football before he does his shoulder again. He's had 2 operations on it already. That third one means he has to get it pinned. If he gets that shoulder pinned, he can't jump, he can't play in the midfield. He basically becomes a semi-professional footballer. 6-month loan from perfect. That's what you want. I do think we also need another attacker, a young third choice attacker, because I love Callum Wilson. Love him. He's made of paper mache. He breaks down so quickly, and that's just unfortunate because his goal to minute ratio is outstanding. He's given the ball in the box, he's going to score you a goal, but the fact that you're only getting him for 50% of the season, at what point do you have to turn around and go, right, we need to make a decision here? And I think that's coming in the summer, but I think we do need to get someone in for the time being, not as a stopgap, not another Chris Wood signing, but someone maybe young who's willing to learn from him for 6 or 8 months, who's then willing to become the second choice behind Isak, and we can start that rotation again. Don't get me wrong, if we could get a couple of other players in, I think we'd love to, but we don't have the money. We might be the richest club in the world with our bank balance, but we can't spend that money because of FFP. So we'll have to be we'll have the box clever, as they say. So that's all I hope for.
Fair. Tev, do you agree with Alan, I suppose, in terms of resources that we have available and what's realistic for us and what we may move for, or do you think we'll get surprised?
Yeah, we just need to make sure we have enough players in the squad, like enough space kind of, because I know we have a lot of players injured that are coming back, so I know we're kind of tight, so we probably need to let probably 1 or 2 go, because I know we're pretty tight in the squad. But definitely I have a feeling Phillips will go through for a 6-month loan. I have this feeling like it's already kind of set in stone. Your man Stuttgart as well, Alan's talking about third striker, there's a fella called Gersi. He has a 50 million buyout. Gersi. He looks quality. I don't know how he has a buyout of 15 million, but I think that's something we might be looking at as well, because you have to think about summer's coming as well. Will Wilson be here next season, or he may have a Richie role, you don't know, but we just need that third striker. I would say, from my liking, and I don't know, probably Burnley will go down, but Burnley have a winger, a striker called Costello. I don't know, he's like an Italian under 21s. He's quality. He's one of these gems that, because Burnley are so bad, he probably looks bad, but he's quality. He's absolutely quality. So them players that are young and up and coming, I'd love to get. Ekitike, enjoy. I don't want him. I think we can get someone else better. There's a reason why he's on the bench. PSG. So yeah, we'll bring in a few bodies, but we just need to make sure we have space. But I agree with Alan says.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's so hard. It's so easy to forget that if Eddie Howe was asked who's his third choice striker, he'd say Anthony Gordon, and then he'd say because I can play Harvey Barnes or Joe Willock out on the left, who both aren't available and both weren't available. You know what I mean? So it's easy to forget that, but that's the truth. We do have a good squad. Yes, we have areas of opportunity to improve, but I think we should not get too excited or carried away. The last topic of this section, Tev, we'll do for 2 minutes, because it is another topic that gets people very excited and carried away. For me, would be basically the whole conversation around ticketing and stadium capacity. And I think the reason this is probably good and topical for us is Darren Eales held, there was basically a supporters event. I think there was over 1,000 supporters in attendance. And one of the main topics was on, the demand for tickets versus supply. Obviously, it's never been higher than it ever has been, and they alluded to that. The quote that made me chuckle was, I think Darren Eales said it himself, that all of a sudden there's a lot of amateur architects out there who are deciding, we can extend here and we can build there, and you know what I mean. I think, what's on the grapevine, I suppose, what do we think we should be expecting to see, even if we think about the next year, 18 months, even 2 years, do you think we're leading towards an expansion of a stand or a side of the stadium and sticking where we are and maybe long term towards a new stadium, or do you think they're ambitious enough to be already looking at a brand new location?
I think it's probably an expansion, maybe the East End or something like that first, just to kind of get the numbers in. Now, it will take time. It's not something that'll come in kind of next season. But I do think because of the demand, and the Irish Mags and the London Mags, we were actually in the chat, myself and Alan, we were talking with the NUFC Trust and the Newcastle United Sports group as well, just talking about ticketing, etc. It's a hot topic, you know, everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to get into the stadium, whether you're from America, from Ireland, from the UK, etc. So they do need to increase it because demand is bigger than supply. But I'd rather them get it right than do something with kind of amateur builder and then get something set up that's really doesn't suit anybody, you know. So it's going to take time, but I do think with the demand, I think it is a right time to kind of get into them negotiations. And I think they're listening. I think they're listening to the kind of talks that sports groups and kind of different people are having. And so fair play to them having a talk with the architects and starting that formal process. But yeah, we do need something because we know ourselves in terms of Irish Newcastle fans, we'd fill a stand if you told us to go next Saturday, you know. So think about that, but on a grand level in terms of different kind of sports groups, different kind of members from different countries. So definitely, yeah, we need an expansion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, I know there's also the new fan zone that's been put being put close to the stadium. I think it's called the Stack, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, in one way, everybody's like, yeah, we'd love to have more, you know, have it easier to get tickets. Now, whether it'll ever be that easy to get tickets, who knows? But the other part of me, it's such a privilege to be able to walk up to the hill to that stadium from the city centre and walk down again after. When you think about other stadiums that you're jumping on trains and getting stuck and stranded in various places, I think Man City is one in particular. You know, there's nothing out there.
Yes,
So you know, it's a topic that's passionate and close to everyone's hearts, I suppose. But I think long term is the key, as you said there, Tim, as well. You know, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it again soon on this podcast, because tickets is one of the hottest topics in the Irish Mags, and we will be dedicating an entire episode to it in the near future. Right, we'll move on towards one of a few of the last sections we want to talk about, and this one, speaking of Irish Mags, is about the community. And basically, you know, we've talked about Newcastle news. I think it's time to talk a little bit about Irish Mags news, because I think that's what a lot of our listeners want to hear about, and I think that's what a lot of people are jealous of when they're like, oh, look what the Irish Mags are doing. So I suppose we are a bit of a mad bunch at the best of times, but I'd like you to share, lads, a few of the things that have been going around the community this week, if you wouldn't mind. I've seen a few things, obviously, in WhatsApp, keeping an eye on various events. But Alan, you're usually a man that has his ear fairly close to the ground when it comes to what's been happening. Any wild stories? I think we're going to call this section Crack of the Week, as Irish as it sounds, but it is what it is.
That's it. So basically, we had our meet-up in the Bleaker, as we always do, for any televised match that you want to get into. Come in and see us. So this week, we were on Premier Sports. It was a good match. All of a sudden, about 10 minutes to go, we start hearing music downstairs, which you don't usually hear in the Bleaker. It was this weird samba music, and we were like, Joe Linton and the boys are downstairs. What's going on? We walk downstairs, and there's a full-on Brazilian party just underneath us in the Bleaker. It was mental. It was an absolutely fantastic night. I promised her I'd be home at 8:30, 9 o'clock. She had to come in and collect me at 10 o'clock. I'm in trouble.
Wow.
So the crack was mighty, as they'd say.
Mighty.
I mean, just
it was.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Just when Alan says the words Brazilian and crack in the same sentence, I get a little bit sidetracked in my mind. But again, that's Irish Mags After Hours, and Alan, you can keep that to yourself. Tev, I heard rumours that you were one of the last to leave that Brazilian samba party downstairs. Is that true, or are the rumours
Yeah,
false?
Myself and Paul Slaughter's son Ryan testing our skills dancing to it, and then we just got out of there. We got out there quick, but it was a huge. It was a random dream. It was like left side was just loaded of lads with Newcastle jerseys. Right side was just a Brazilian party, and we had the lads from Cork down. We had Paul Slaughter down for his birthday. We had Freddie from the London Mags down as well, and even the meet was fantastic as well. But just like it just trickled. We were all kind of saying, "Oh, we'll watch the Brentford Arsenal game." Nobody watched the Brentford Arsenal game. Let's be serious. We just went downstairs. The Brentford Arsenal game were live. Someone said Havertz scored. Nobody cared. We stayed for the crack. But that's the thing about the league, is like you end up going for one thing and then you end up coming out at like 2 a.m. or like you making friends or just at a Brazilian party, as you do.
As you do.
No.
I will not rest until I want to see a photo of someone in a Newcastle top, maybe like whispering into like a Brazilian lady or fella's ear, and someone caption it just going, "Did you see Joe Linton's goal?" Or just that famous meme of the guy whispering into that girl. Excellent stuff. Cool. Let's move on a little bit. We just talked about crack of the week in terms of fun in the community. I'd like to hear about the highlight of the week, and for that I'm going to go to Tev for the highlight of the week in the Irish Mags community this week.
Yeah, so obviously you probably seen the promotion in terms of social media in the Irish Mags. So the Irish Mags with the London Mags, myself and Freddie and Simon run a podcast. The Social is just about getting more kind of member supporters group talking to each other. So we run that kind of weekly, and we were invited to the Rob Lee live show on TNT Sport, which will actually be live at 10:30 after the PSG game. So that was with Rob Lee and co. So we were the kind of the pre-headliners trying to get the crowd up in terms of quizzes and stuff like that. So that was a fantastic opportunity in terms of raising the profile of the Irish Mags, getting the awareness up, and also meeting Rob Lee and kind of some cool people from The Athletic and TNT Sports. So that went really good, but it kind of shows, and what the lads were kind of saying, like we've been doing stuff for months in terms of meetups, in terms of events, and in terms of future stuff as well, that the lads will be involved next year. But like the opportunities is down to the commitment of the supporters groups in terms of the Irish Mags all around the country, and the people are coming up to us and kind of saying, you know, talk to us when we're in Newcastle on social media, etc. So that opportunity to be on TNT Sport, I'll never forget that ever again in my life, you know. So it was fantastic, and long may onwards and upwards. The lads, look, we have plans. The lads will kind of be on some very cool places soon, so watch this space. But yeah, no, it was just a fantastic opportunity in London, you know. And shout out to Graham as well. I'd just like to say great shout out to Graham for coming as well. It was on a Wednesday, and look, I don't expect the lads to kind of travel on a Wednesday to London, but Graham came down and left at 6:30 in the morning. God love him. But just shout out to Graham for that, because I appreciate it, you know.
My Graham. Excellent.
Top work, lads. You're absolutely flying the flag. Looking forward to watching it. Tev, you've said it's something you'll never forget. We may never forget it either. Like, we obviously haven't seen it yet, so we'll see how it goes, and then we'll let you know if it's something we'll never forget.
If you're staying in the
I mean,
group,
that said,
Yeah.
that said, if there is another Brazilian party after the game on Tuesday, maybe nobody's going to watch it. So let's wait and see what happens. So that's going to be after the PSG game, right, on TNT Sports at about
TNT Sport 10:30.
Lovely.
Excellent.
Keep your eyes on that one, folks. Right, and the final piece of community news is going to come from Krisho in a segment we're going to be calling Bad Take of the Week, and this is not one to be missed, I would say.
No,
So Krisho, over to you.
I'm gonna come in hot here, yeah. And this is for our first episode. This is a poor take, a bad take. Right, it was Saturday, 1-1. Joe Linton missed. Let's say he misdirected his header. Maybe he thought he was defending or something. And I won't name the names of the people within our Irish Mags group, but they know who they are when they listen to this. And I will quote verbatim what they said. And they said, and this is their take, he should be sold as soon as possible, and if we can take somewhere between 2.5 million to 5 million, that'd be enough. Because he can't score, he's had too many inconsistent games, and I can't stand watching him anymore. Now, I sometimes get heartburn when I'm watching Newcastle, but I nearly got sick into my pint when I heard that. Now, I did take a sharp look at these guys. I think that maybe they were just slightly overreacting, because when he did score, you'd swear he was Pele. But, you know, this is the kind of fluctuations we have within our collective, not just Irish Mags, but Newcastle United supporters. 1 minute you're the worst player that they've ever seen in their entire life, and then they're considered Pele or Maradona, the greatest player in the world. But to say that we would sell Joe Linton for between 2.5 to 5 million is this week's bad take from the Irish Mags.
I'm a bit speechless,
right?
Alan.
Wow.
I need to process this, Alan. Alan, take it. I just need to process this for a moment, especially the value.
I don't want to process this because the person who said it is related to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so moving on.
Yeah, so the less said, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll just
Yeah,
look, that
let's
we'll
move
just
on.
leave that as bag take of the week. I have little doubt in my mind that in Joe Linton's honour, Crisho actually scheduled a Brazilian party
Yeah,
just
exactly.
in Joe Linton's honour. Actually, that's actually what I believe.
Exactly, that's exactly what I did. Yeah. 100%.
Right. We better move on as quick as we can from there. We're absolutely flying it this evening, lads. On that note, speaking of flying, I think a lot of our members who may even be listening to this very podcast while traveling, because we know a lot of you and them will be flying to Paris in the next 24 hours. Because in case anyone somehow isn't aware of the fact, we have what could be the biggest game in recent Newcastle history since the Carabao Cup, in terms of like what's potentially at stake. We're going to the Parc des Princes, as we say in Francais. Just, a little Champions League group game against PSG, who obviously, as we know, have the likes of Kylian Mbappe and his friends. Yes, we had a very good result of them in St. James's Park. That was what feels like a long time ago. Probably circumstances a little bit different. I do feel like they may have underestimated us, which they probably won't do again. But this is going to be a huge, massive game. Alan, I'm going to come to you first. To stick with the community as well. Do we know, have we many from the community travelling over?
We have a few travelling over. Look, we didn't get any tickets. We didn't get a sniff of any tickets of the away end. Like, let's be honest, we're not going to. A few lads who are chancing their arm trying to get home tickets. A few ladies also involved in that. I think we have about 30 people flying over. They're going to be enjoying themselves at the pre-match events and all that. And I know one or two of them are going to chance their arm going to the home end, which myself and Tev will know is perfectly acceptable until you nearly score and nearly get thrown out of the stadium, but here we are. But yeah, I think the lads who are going over are going to have a cracking time. Like, I was in Milan, unbelievable. Tev was in Dortmund, unbelievable. The lads who are in Paris, it's going to be unbelievable. So to them all, enjoy yourselves, and I'm so jealous. Just remember that.
Yeah, I mean, like, go on, Tev. I'll let you take it from there, and we might even jump into, I suppose, what we're looking at in terms of the Newcastle team and obviously the opposition as well.
I'd say just in terms of any Irish mags, like in terms of Champions League, we don't know if this will ever come back again. Like, I know a few of the lads are going to Milan at home and stuff like that, but even if you don't have a ticket, just go. The experience is absolutely unreal. You're in another country. I'm not saying you're drinking all day, but you could be drinking all day. And like you're going into a Champions League game where we don't know if that'll happen again. So for the lads and ladies going to the likes of PSG away or Milan at home, just enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's
don't
fair.
enjoy too much, but enjoy it.
Yeah, we don't condone drinking all day. Drink sensibly. Always be sensible, of course. But as we know, it's great when we travel in groups as well. And I was mega jealous watching you lads over in Dortmund and in Milan as well. Hoping to make up for it in a few weeks, but more on that in next week's podcast. Crisho,
Yeah.
let's talk about. I suppose we can. We've talked a lot about our squad. I don't know if there's going to be any major changes from what we saw against Chelsea in terms of availability. Have you picked up on any hints that any players that weren't available for Chelsea might be up for selection against PSG?
I was, you know me. I sometimes pop onto the Irish Mags major group, but it's just so many people. It's like playing Call of Duty. I get a bit nervous, so I put up something about Longstaff, and somebody went, no, he wasn't there. But like Alan said, maybe he just wasn't spotted. But I mean, I had Pope, Trips, Shar, The Shells, Livermento, Bruno, Longstaff / Miley, Joe Linton, Almiron, Isaac Gordon. I don't see where else he could. I don't see any apart from Dunwood coming in, maybe centre half, or Kraft playing on the right, or Livermento playing on the left, and Trippier not playing at all. But I think Eddie Howe wants to get something out of this. He's not going for just testing out some young lads. So that's. Like, I mean, we have Murphy, Byrne, Target, Anderson, Willock, possibly Longstaff out. Botman, Wilson, and Barnes to come back before Christmas, but they're not going to be available.
There's one. I don't want to call an ace in the hole, but potentially an overlooked one because he's not injured, but he wasn't available against Chelsea. Was because he's on loan from them, which is Lewis Hall. That's a positive. Yes, it's another defender, but he's very versatile. So I mean, it's a good option to have, especially when like if we have those 3 academy players going to a Champions League game in Paris against PSG, like no matter who you are, there's a sense of being overwhelmed. So like obviously Lewis Hall is very young, but has played in the Chelsea setup, has probably flavoured a bit of European football and stuff like that. So or at least knows what it's like around that club.
Just on that, I can kind of maybe see Lewis Hall starting left back. Gordon being given a rest because he's so important to us. Listen, if we go to Paris, if we get beaten, we get beaten. Look, as long as we don't lose more than 4-1, our head-to-head record is better than against PSG, and that's what matters. If we draw, it's absolutely amazing. We then bring Milan to St James's Park, and under the lights, in the cathedral, we beat them. We probably finished third in a group where we were expected to get no points. We can turn around and say, we beat Milan at home, we drew with them away. Yes, Dortmund did the double overs. Dortmund are a smashing side, don't mind that. We smashed PSG, and whatever happens, we drew, they beat us, whatever happens. That's a very, very, very good stint in the Champions League. So I can see Hall starting left back, Livramento left wing, and Gordon being kept for the massively important game at the weekend against Manchester Red, as they say.
Oh, that's Chris Shaw's team, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Don't let Jamie hear that. Don't let Jamie Hogan hear that.
No. Don't believe what you hear, folks.
You guys
Don't
are
believe what you
guys
hear.
are the worst. It has to stop after episode 1.
What colour is your microphone?
I was 11 years old, guys. It is red, but it's a live mic. It's a live mic. I'm gonna paint it black and white. I'm telling you.
Paint it black
11 years
indeed.
old.
Last little piece, I suppose, Tev, would be on PSG. I mean, look, obviously, everybody knows they have Mbappe, right? The one thing that stood out to me, and I'll come to you then after, would be, I think Marquinhos is out, but Zaire Emery, who was their best player when they came to St James Park, he's out, right?
Yeah.
I think he's out.
Yeah,
which is
he's
one to
injured
watch.
when I think France bet was it not San Marino, they bet somebody bet
Gibraltar.
40-0.
Gibraltar, yeah.
Gibraltar. They should have stopped that game after 20 minutes. But with PSG, it's always the same. It's a 4-2-4. Just hold the pressure. Hold the pressure. And it's easier said than done. Playing away to them, it's going to be frantic. Like all their League 1 games, they're finishing 5-2. They just won 5-2 against Monaco. It's just hold the pressure. Now, it is going to be a hard game, but if we can kind of set our banks kind of at the back for the first kind of few minutes just to kind of soak up the pressure and then play our game. We're a very fast side, very good counter-attacking side, so we can play anyone off the park. So it's just about timing when we attack and then just going for it, you know. But yeah, there's no fear. Like, this is a very important game. It's not a game that we're looking for a draw. We probably do need to win if we want to progress. So I'd say we start strong, we soak up the pressure, but let's go for it, you know. It's going to be a high-scoring game.
I mean, like if someone had said to us, hey, you know, you can go and play in the Champions League, you know, if they asked us 2 years ago, you can go and play PSG, and we'll give, you know, even if we lose 4-3, 4-2, I mean, we'd all be on board. We'd be fine with that, I think. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I don't think any of us are, you know, yes, we had a cracking win against Chelsea. I think we all realise, I hope that a lot of us realise we're going away to play a hell of a team who have a lot of confidence and some serious players. And we just know who we are. We'll have a game plan like we always do. We hope that it works. We hope that the players deserve for it to work as well. So time will tell. And best of luck to anyone who's travelling over. And it's probably a good segue, Tev. We're going to talk about upcoming announcements, and it's probably a good way to tie us into the next meetup, which of course is in the Bleakers in Dublin, and it's going to be PSG against Newcastle. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so just in terms of the meetups that we have in the Bleakers, usually the Champions League games are the best ones because they're heavily attended, to 40 to 60 people. So we are having another meetup. I think Freddie again is over from the London Mags. So come down. Look, it's a safe place in terms of watching Newcastle. It's fantastic buzz. All the guys are great. So yeah, no, it's going to be another good one. Just hopefully we get a result. But if anyone's listening to this, come down and have a point. And even if it's not for the PSG, like this Manchester United, as Alan said, any televised game we show. So if it's not PSG, Manchester United, if it's not Manchester United, Tottenham away, it's not Tottenham away, I forgot the next fixture. We'll get there. But
Some big games.
Milan
Big games
is there.
coming up.
Milan at home.
Yeah.
Milan at home is somewhere there. But you know, like as I said, like we want as much Irish mags kind of coming down. So if you see the promotion or you're thinking about coming down, come down. You know.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, we've talked a lot about meetups and we've talked a lot about travel. And the two things that I suppose are very much in common with those two topics is the Irish mags flags that we've seen on tour and I believe inside in the bleakers as well. So Krisha, I might come to you because one of the things we want to remind the listeners about and the Irish mags community is, look, we do have a flags fund that basically anyone who wants to donate can. And maybe, I suppose, Krisha, you can tell the listeners, how we've done so far in terms of flags, where the flags are currently. If you can bring us up to speed.
Absolutely. As you can see from some of the social media posts by Alan, Tev, and so on, the guys bring the flags with them. Alan was doing it in Milan, hanging around with Shay Given. Tev was doing it in Dortmund, hanging around with Shoal Amiobi. And those flags that essentially we initially had paid for without a fund, just because we were starting to build everything up. They're not cheap, let's put it that way. But we want to we're working with Johnny in the Bleecker Street Bar, having the upstairs area to be completely solely for Newcastle fans. He has kind of said to us, look, you guys have free reign here. Put up whatever you want. Put up whatever flags you want. You can paint the walls black and white if you like. Just whatever you wish. So that's why it's very imperative that we got a little bit of help from our friends, let's put it that way. So we'll put the link down the bottom of this post on YouTube or whatever, so you can get the link to the GoFundMe. But there was an initial €600 limit on it, and it's presently at €510.
Wow.
With 17 donations to bring it to €510, which is very, very impressive. Just a quick shout out to Colin and Dara for their unbelievable donations. Frankly, thanks very much. It really means a lot to us. So it gives us a bit of a fun to work with, to make the experience in the Bleecker Street Bar, and also when we travel away to matches. When we meet up in Dublin Airport, wouldn't it be great for Alan or Tev to pull out 6 flags from their bag and go, you have one, you have one, you have one. So wherever we're sitting in the St James's Park, we can wave up our Irish Mags flags, which is what we're kind of aiming for. But if you guys want to donate, please do. It's very welcome, and it's used obviously solely for the flags. That's where we're at the present moment.
And Tev, Krisho mentioned St James's Park. There was a flag hanging in St James's Park for a while. Am I right? At one
still
point.
there.
Yes.
It's still there. So
Good
at
man,
level
Tev.
7, it was actually a mistake made by me where, zip ties, you don't zip tie them to the full extent. I just made a mistake. So if you're on level 7 of the Gallowgate and you look up on the left side, the first entrance, the Irish Mags flag is actually there, and it's there permanently due to me being a dope. But yeah, so
Don't
you'll
harm.
see it. But we want all of them to be filled with Irish Mags flags. But it's back what Christian was saying. It's not just about having one or two. If we had a few and we're giving out to all the members, so at least then you'd have one in the East Stand, one in Gallowgate, one in Leazes, etc. It's just more awareness, it's more awareness. So yeah, just as Christian was kind of saying, we'll put the link in the description, and then feel free to kind of donate any amount you want.
Yeah,
Could be
absolutely.
euro.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
It
guys.
all-
And then and Alan does love getting himself shown on Sky Sports. So
He does.
any kind of help to get Alan on Sky Sports again would be great.
Yeah. We need more Alan on television. It can't be Tev all
Yes.
the time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Fair play. Yeah, and look, I for one love seeing some of the photo. Like when we saw Shola Amiobi holding one end of an Irish Mags flag. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
That's
you know, like
Tear
it's
to
just
the
got-
eye job.
he's-
That's what that was.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
Tear to the eye.
He just embodies. He embodies like being a Geordie. I
He's a
suppose,
Mackem
and-
Slayer. He's the
He's seen
Mackem
it all.
Slayer.
There you go. And lastly, in terms of upcoming, I suppose, events and things of note, Tev, we do have a giveaway going on Twitter as we speak, which will be running by the time this podcast comes out. Will still be running, and it's with we've partnered up with a company called Full Time Prints, who do really, really nice. I suppose it's football nostalgia and memorabilia prints of various sporting moments, football moments, team sheets, commentary. So that's running on Twitter right now. And the other thing I wanted Tev to speak a little bit is about this very podcast. So obviously, if you're listening now, this is the very first one. We're very excited to be bringing it to your ears and to your eyes. And we do plan to release a new podcast every single week and a new show. But Tev, we would like to tell our listeners about sponsorship opportunities as well. Isn't that right?
Yeah. As the guys are kind of saying, obviously this podcast is for Irish members, for Irish members, and also the Newcastle community. So we want to make sure we're putting out, in terms of content, that's quality, whether it's mics, whether it's cameras, whether it's video, etc. So we do have a sponsorship opportunity that we're kind of highlighting out, whereby we'll have, if you run a small to medium business, we'll have your logo on the show, we'll give you a call out, and then we'll have you on descriptions as well. It's a very small fee, it's less than €350. And it's for 15 episodes as well. So this is more to just kind of raise the quality of our episodes, so at least then we can kind of make sure we're representing Irish Mags to the full extent. So please get into contact if you'd like to be a sponsor of the podcast. We've had one or two inquiries already, but it's not too late to kind of have a chat. So contact irishmags@gmail.com or contact us personally in terms of our emails, our contact numbers, and we'll get directly back to you.
Excellent stuff. Exciting times. And as we said, lads, we want to get more Irish Mags content out there. Like the primary focus of this, obviously, we're all looking at Newcastle United as a club and the exciting journey that we're on. But this is very much about the Irish Mags as a community. Everything we do, we want to bring it back into the community, and we want to bring more people in and on board. And this show is definitely going to be a part of that, and we're very happy to bring it. Super stuff. Well, look, on that note, lads, it's probably getting past Alan's bedtime.
Absolutely.
We just heard he was collected at 10 p.m. On Saturday night in the bleakers. I can tell you it's far past 10 p.m. So he's definitely past his bedtime. So that's probably a good time to bring the first ever Irish Mags show to a close. You can find the links for the Irish Mags in terms of our social media. You can find the GoFundMe for the flag raising fund. And of course, links for all of us as well in the description in wherever you're listening to this very podcast. Check us out on Twitter @IrishMags, and through there you'll be able to contact us in terms of joining any of our WhatsApp groups, in terms of traveling, in terms of tickets, in terms of meetups and announcements. So that's where you can find us. So for now, I guess all that's left for me to do is to say thank you very much to everyone who's listening. I'm going to say thank you to my co-host. Thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers. And of course, Krisho, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Paul. Love to see you.
And finally, of course, we're saying Tev is a guest because it depends on how long Tev trusts us to be recording without his presence. Yeah. So we'll leave that how it remains to be seen. But Tev, thanks very much for joining us as well this evening.
Thank you, guys. It's been fantastic. And for the listeners, Christian, Paul, and Alan, you're in safe hands. So please tune in. It's going to be fantastic. Call me a roaming guest, I might come, but I think it's time to get the Irish Mags and Newcastle kind of special guests on, so I'll be in and out, but the three guys are the main guys,
So what you're saying is there are more special guests than you to come.
Yeah, I'll take a Ryanair every month back.
Nice. Excellent. Right. That's all for today, folks. The Irish Mags show is, of course, available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, as we know, doing a video show as well as the audio show. The plan is that we will be releasing a new show every single Wednesday, giving you previews, giving you look-aheads to upcoming games and events. So until then, away the lads, off to France we go. Hopefully, the next time we speak, we'll be talking about one, if not two, great results. Only time will tell, though. So for now, see you all very soon. Slán go fóill, and say goodbye, lads.
Slán, lads.
Slán go fóill.
Slán and goodbye.